Him. Is it working? Oh, do we have something? Is it working? Do we have some sound? There's so much story to go around. I gotta say, let me move this over here. Move this piece up into there, and see if the good. Okay, let's see if the chat room is a doing. You can hear me. Excellent. Let me see what happens. What happens? I don't know. What happens if I push uh this button and then this button? Oh, look at that. Hi, how are you? Hey, welcome. Good morning, good day, and good evening, good whatever. It's none of my business, quite frankly, what you're doing, as long as it's good right now. Can I just say, where do we start? It's a strange week already, um, on a bunch of different fronts, and mostly because of you folks. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, the sparklers, as it were, the folks that hang out, the regulars, the irregulars, and the trollages that show up. And there's a strange factor, and I think you guys are very aware in the chat room that it's no surprise when we get like right wing, you know, I guess whatever the fake patriot boys types with the Z boys and patriot boys in the hoods, and no pun intended, and then like just Trumpies, maggots in general. That's not surprising. That's when they show up and they're like, but hey, the Abraham's Accord. No president in history has made more peace deals with countries that weren't actually at war than Donald John Trump. So what if he wants to build buildings and have golf courses in those countries, and he just wants the airlines to travel back and forth? It's not, he did it for America. Anyways, so yeah, those folks, they're fun. They're a good time. We're almost at 53K. That's right, 52.4. Subscribe. That's all I'm going to say. You take off your tank top when you reach 60K. But yes, for sure. For an increasingly long amount of time, to the point where when we get to 150K, I may be doing the show in flagrante delicto. But um, occasionally, kids, occasionally, we have, and this may spark another conversation, it may not, but it may just send you down. I want to send you down a rabbit hole, if I may, after the show today. And some of you may be aware of this already, but I think it's kind of good in general. Is remember a little while ago when I called out the TYT folks for being anti-democracy, and which they are, and having a strategy of, and this goes across a lot of slacktivist types, but it's the theory, the philosophy, if you will. If we don't get everything, nobody gets anything, right? That's my big problem. Now, I don't have a problem with anybody arguing their side, their ideas, none of that stuff. But the minute you start holding reality hostage to your fruitopian ideas that are never going to fucking happen, at least not in that format, and at the same time pretending that doing anything incrementally, stacking bricks to make a wall, crazy idea, is not only, I guess not good enough, but is counterproductive and is actually working for the other side. If you actually try to build something incrementally and you do the daily work of brick by brick trying to make the world better, you're not only not trying to build the wall you say you're trying to build, or the structure you're trying to build, you are actually working for the people who don't want there to be a structure at all, and you're evil. Okay, all right. So, and during that back and forth, which is on the regular, I've mentioned this quite a few times. People are quitting TYT left and right. Well, that's the irony. I think it's the lefties and the righties. There's a mixture. So, one of the things that was said during that little window was that Cenk, I think that's his name. It might be his sound effect. He, I guess in an effort to refer to me without referring to me, said something about the Hal Sparkses of the world, blah, 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 blah. The Hal Sparkses of the world think this. The Hal Sparkses of the world. Okay. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but as of late, both of them, Cenk and Anna, have both been on kind of a some refer to as sort of a right-wing rehab tour, or a hab tour, I guess, if they don't. Well, it would be a rehab because he was a Republican event in the beginning, and they are, kind of waking up to a few things, and everybody's saying that, oh my God, they're going right-wing or they're grifters now or blah blah blah. Okay, first of all, set that conversation aside and understand that one of the reasons why people are saying that about them is that they have suddenly started mentioning things that I have been straight ahead about this entire time. While proving, by the way, for the record, that you can stick to reality and make decent points without having to bullshit your audience or create this fruitopian, ideal off in the distance and go just over the horizon. If we just close our eyes and start marching in that direction, we can't have full broad conversations. And I have a couple of times when we've discussed certain issues in dealing with the reality of them, from Rittenhouse to some aspects of the trans issue, where we remind everybody that a lot of times the negative aspects that are being brought up have nothing to do with trans people. They have people at the most charitable. They have to do with people who temporarily believe they are trans when they are not, and in some cases they have to do with people who are absolutely bullshitting the system. That is not trans people's fault nor their responsibility, and it is our responsibility as a society to clarify the rules in this and how we deal with these things, so that trans people aren't burdened with trans trenders and all that other stuff. We've talked about this. We've said that criticizing Rachel Dolezal is not a criticism of black people, and it is not something no black person is responsible for the behavior of Rachel Dolezal. So you can have a complicated conversation about complicated issues without bullshitting your audience and saying the minute they're asking a legit question about some portion of it that they're a monster, right? And then they, all of a sudden seem to wake up to that and want credit for it. But here's the thing. I'm still a dick, according to them. Which is kind of true. Okay, whatever. There's been no walk back or apology like, you know what? Hal Sparks is right. Incrementalism and kind of tapping the brakes and maybe not jumping on every video that comes through and sticking a flag in it. Maybe that's not A, news, and B, not morally right. Just saying. I do not want credit for this, McJet. I believe me, they're not coming about this because they're suddenly listening to me. No, it's quite the opposite. The what's actually going on is that they are, sort of coming around to how full of shit they are, / maybe were. I don't know. We'll see if it sticks. Through the 2024 election, to the point where all I have ever asked of most of this, folks, is that, yes, defend the progress we have made. There you go. Celery 8, thank you very much. Is that, and maybe it's the contrast of having Marianne Williamson touring, and I wouldn't even call it campaigning, but touring around saying basically that, like, all the victories Democrats have made in the last 50 fucking years are proof positive that they're worse than the side that's tried to stop all progress. It's that part of it is ridiculous. PHKO says, anyone who isn't voting to stop fascism from taking over the U.S. is actively taking part in helping fascism. No two ways. They can't have their cake and eat it too. Yeah, but PHK, you'd have to explain to me in that case. And this is, this is very much the language that they would say on TYT. You have to tell me what part of the infrastructure bill, for example, is fascism. Working with moderate conservatives, for example, who may have themselves voted for Donald Trump but wish he wasn't the head of their party, blah, 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 and have to pretend to like him or they'll lose their seat to somebody who's even worse. Yeah, all that stuff. is to some degree, that's like saying uh, spies are not soldiers because they pretend to be for the other side. Right? That's an extreme example, but that's what that is. Anybody who doesn't openly, and again, define fascism in those terms, um, and and again, feel free to, but the basis of it is vote in, yes, vote in every election, vote for the best person that will actually win. And if you throw away your vote on a third party that doesn't have a shot at winning, you are handing your vote to the side that you are allegedly voting against, and therefore, all I have, in my opinion, you're more like somebody who votes for that than the other way around. That you're Susan Sarandon style, hoping the whole thing collapses. So, anyways, apparently, right now, I am. Thanks, moms. Am I? All right. So the yes, choose less evil. Right. As we say on this show, when you are confronted with the choice that you believe is the lesser of two evils, choose less evil. How you don't think the MAGA movement is fascist? Yeah, I do, but I don't believe that all conservatives are in the MAGA movement. And the irony is that the most MAGA of MAGA apparently kicked MTG out for screaming at one of the other MAGAs. That's the intermittent fighting between those is none of my business. That's different than somebody who's a fiscal conservative or even a social conservative who believes in gay marriage and believes in a woman's right to choose, but thinks it should be that 15 weeks should be the optional phase, and after that, you should have that it should be a medical emergency or rape or incest, and and that reasoning is not the same as Donald Trump and his ilk thinking that he should be the king of the country and blah blah blah. So that's not the point. The point is that there are a distinct group of people who believe that anybody who, I don't know, voted to raise the debt ceiling with the Republican thing to raise the debt ceiling with a bill that would only be possible with votes from that side are somehow on board with everything else they do. Okay, Hal, who's the less evil Republican presidential candidate? Why is that my concern? I'm voting for Joe Biden next time. That would be the point in this one. I don't have to choose between other Republicans. I guess in their case, if you're a Republican and you're looking at the primary, you'll have to make that decision for yourself. I think Trump and DeSantis want exactly the same thing, so they'd be on par with the same level of quote unquote evil. I think you're probably going to find yourself voting for Chris Christie or Asa Hutchinson or something. But that's not my problem. I'm saying that the TYTs of the world would make the case that Joe Biden versus Trump is just the lesser of two evils. That's the case they have made multiple times about Democrats versus Republicans. And I would say, well, then it is super easy. I'm muted on YouTube. It's very strange. It is super easy. Just vote for the Democrat. That's it. Yeah, I mean, if you're just saying it's just the less of two evils, well, then fine. Vote for less evil and shut the fuck up. And if you think it can be better, then run. Unfortunately, it looks like it's Biden or Satan. I'm going with Biden. Yes, see what I mean? Again, there's also a difference between, somebody who farts on an airplane and a serial killer. And so between those two people, one is the lesser of two evils. You get me? Okay. So point I'm trying to make is that suddenly, for some reason, they have come around to the idea that maybe just maybe, all the good work that is done in the world is done bit by bit, piece by piece, right? Incrementally, going to the gym, eating well, treating yourself right, raising a child, learning a language or any kind of a skill. All of that is incremental. It's Rudy the Plain Farter. Touche, Mark. That might be a 1 for 1. Then you can pick any other passenger, or the pilot. So the point is, everything you do in your life requires day-to-day effort and day-to-day improvement. And anybody who tells you, no, 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 there is a magic pill now, and that solves your societal woes, that person is dangerously full of shit. They're not just lying to you for money. They're also, in some cases, filling people's heads with false hope that is easily dashed. Because one of the problems that Biden has been fighting, and one of the reasons why he's probably, you could probably put say 5% of his negative rating comes from the idea that he people say he is not keeping promises that he didn't actually make. Promises that Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders floated, they didn't even present a plan for. And said, and then Biden tries to, like, in working with Sanders and working with Warren post election, goes, hey, what can we do? Let's spitball these kind of things. We'll give it a try. It may not work, but we'll give it a try. And he actually tries it, gets no credit for it, and everybody's mad that, like, he didn't do what. No, you don't understand. Sanders had a magic wand, and you're just leaving it in the case. Why are you not Harry Pottering this? And so people get mad at that, which is insane. That is craziness. I'm just telling you. And to hold someone else to a standard you don't hold to yourself, for example, is a form of ego that borders on Trumpism. That's the funny part. Because let me be abundantly clear. Everything else about TYT was accomplished. All the good that they've accomplished and all the hard work that they've done has all been incremental. They started as a little channel, and then they added better graphics, and then they built on the thing, and then they, once they built an audience, they tried different like story points, and then they started clickbaiting the shit out of things, and that helped them grow their audience. All that shit, right? All of that is incremental. They built that thing over a decade plus. All the channels that I'm, a competitor of or some shit, in that idea that I'm on opposite at whatever times in the internet, which time is irrelevant, but whatever. People only have so much time in the day to watch some stuff, so technically you're competing for eyeballs all the time, have been on for years and years and years. And every single one of them over time has added different graphics. They've added different aspects of their show. They've built, whether they've had guests, all the stuff that, I've been building this race car while it's on the track, have done exactly the same thing over years. Production veneer costs money. Yes, it does, Jathan. It absolutely does. Point I'm trying to make is, why is it that every advance they've ever had in their business and in their life, in their relationship with their kids or their family's kids or their, I don't know, whatever the fuck kind of relationship they have interpersonal level, have been built incrementally, but somehow society and government is different? Somehow there's a magic lever somewhere that the evil people out there are just refusing to throw. They're refusing to walk up and go stomp like that. Cenk and Anna are transphobic, allegedly. Yeah, I've seen that. I don't buy that as an argument. TYT is going full Tulsi Gabbard. Is that the thing? I only watch, bits and pieces that float through, because I am not convinced of the entire raison d'etre of the show. So why would I fill my head with the cast off pieces? I would much rather deal with real news, because they're basically, it's like TYT is, to some degree, and I think all news reaction shows, I would put myself in a slightly different category, because you guys know that especially in the afternoon show, in my reaction to stuff, I am actually, this is sort of a debunking show in its root. That's what it started as, with me just going through all the Trump rallies and saying, okay, that's a lie, and here's why. That's a lie, here's why. That's right, that stuff. They've gone half door. I don't think you can go half door. Jimmy Dore, Russell Brand, TYT are just far left hate media. Fox News left this purity crazy extremists, both extremists left or right format. Yeah, well, there. I mean, it's division incorporated, sure. So, but my show is based on the idea of like directly debunking stuff, one to one, and having that kind of knowledge in my brain pan on my own, and that's sort of the skill I bring to it. That's what I try to, and of course doing it with a smile on my face and a spring in my step. That's probably the other part too. That's the purpose. So that's where it started anyway. And then the morning show, we float around with, sometimes guests, sometimes not. We'll do the trends in a moment, which is very different now because Threads is now taking over and it doesn't do trends, which might be good. So that might just bring me to sort of news stories of the day. And we might, I don't know, be a point of, instead of going, hey, this is what everybody's talking about, maybe starting the conversation, pushing that along. So anyways, point being is that I feel like there are certain online shows that are built on sort of, I don't know, like a proto interpretive system, which is, let me explain to you how you should interpret the news. You allegedly think like me. I'm going to show you a news story, and then I'm going to frame it for you in a way that you should think about it. That seems to me to be the root of shows like Russell Brand's and like Jimmy Dore's and like TYT and the other shows. Like, we will show you the news that you might see everywhere else, but we will tell you how you should think about it. Crazy Hal actually read one of my comments and did twist it into something it wasn't. Breathes a sigh of relief. Right, PHKO. I'm not here to make any enemies. So you love Spoutable? Very exciting. By the way, Spoutable, as well as the Mastodon systems and all the stuff, are going to be part of the Fediverse, or the like this sort of public square concept, where if you have an account on any of those, it will overlap with other ones to this decentralized internet, like social media kind of thing that Threads will also be a part of. Twitter will not. So it's becoming like a cul-de-sac of lunatics right now, and it has its value. You can definitely go over there and go, "Wow, this is like one of the villages in The Walking Dead, where it's just like everything's on fire." Anyways, the Fediverse, yes, no, the Fediverse is very different. It's a cheesy place to go. So if people weren't so spoiled, mean, and greedy, the world would be a nicer place for me, right? Well, that's the idea, is that somehow that the world population, which grew very fast because people got calories and were able to travel to places and have sex with other people, which made the population of the earth balloon, is somehow indicative of a soul sickness of humanity in general, instead of just like, oh, I'm no longer starving to death. What's next? Which is what petroleum and fossil fuels brought us. We just have to switch to something that doesn't, the return on investment isn't negative at a certain point. Instead of people are evil and we didn't care that we were destroying everything. Most people just woke up to the idea that we were destroying stuff and went, oh, we should probably fix that. How do we do it without murdering more people than we're helping right away? We'll get to that in a little bit. But so these shows, especially Dore and Russell Brand, but I think, TYT has been, especially their offshoot shows are based on that. A lot of, I mean, the Daily Wire is the same thing. That's where the parallels are in a lot of these. They want you to, this is how you should think about this, instead of this is what is. Strange. Mine says eat Hal Sparks. Is that suspect? Is everybody getting a fortune cookie right now? All right. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. I'll give you my take on stuff, but I want you to carry away your own opinion. And ultimately, the other thing is, and this might shock the shit out of people, but you don't have to have an opinion about some stuff. You can be materially aware of a story or the existence of it, but not have your own opinion about it. And most of the time, especially if you don't have very many details, you can't actually have an opinion about it. Your opinion does not reflect your your attitude towards the actual thing, but the limited number of details you have about it. The four blind men explaining an elephant to each other concept. Um, that you may a lot of people, and this is part of, I think, like I said, this is the TYT Russell Brand, Jimmy Dore, Daily Wire, Matt Walsh. The business model of that is that they want you to keep you only feeling one part of the elephant. What? That they are specifically trying to get you to uh, conform to their idea of what is in that story and share their opinion, right? That they want you to share their opinion. I don't. I morally and ethically would like to find people that align with me in a, in a mix of supporting people who have fallen through the cracks and who have no other recourse in this world, and helping as many of those people as we possibly can, while not sacrificing our own ethics and morals chasing after people who have no interest in bettering themselves. That's the trade-off that often happens, and that's why life is murky. But ethically, okay, how do we help as many people as we can and make this society as open and supportive of as many people as you can, without a detrimental allowance for shock minorities to take over parts of it, from Nazis to slacktivists or whatever, who try to like drag the conversation in fake directions that have nothing to do with what's actually going on in society. And that's what a lot of what I deal with here on the show when I show clips and we address them. That's a lot of what I'm doing. And so I feel like many people can have a different opinion about a story based on what information they do have and what missing information might be there. But it's less about that actual thing and more about you. And I've talked about occasionally, like when you're at the grocery store and there's those People magazine articles about people's relationships, or the last 4 days of fighting the cancer, that whoever the celebrity, their brave vital days, those kind of things. It's a social science. Um that when you see those articles, some people pick those articles up and they start judging the person in there as if they could. First of all, you're getting someone's interpretation of that relationship, what's going on between the two people who are supposedly breaking up or whatever, in these like Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt stories they always have, right? You are not judging those people. You couldn't fucking possibly, because you've never met them. You are not standing there during these fits and starts of their relationship. You are making your judgment based on descriptives you are hearing from a person who is hired to make a version of the story that will catch people's eyes at the market. And so your opinion about it is bottlenecked through those details. Does that make sense? Everybody following me on this? Or am I just wandering in the dark? But your attitude, your opinion, your ideas, and what you're socially expressing to your friends and other people is not based on the reality of the circumstance, but on the limited interpretation, that bottleneck of information that you have. That is, by the way, characterized in such a way to draw your attention. That story about that real relationship between two human beings who have every right to be together or not be together that you have with anybody else on this fucking planet is corralled into a narrow space so that it'll catch your eye at a market and go, oh dear, what are they breaking up? Are they getting together? When it has no reflection on the reality. Okay. It is an established narrative. That's right, Manchita. So in that, any opinion that you have is not your opinion of that relationship. It is your opinion of the minor details that are encapsulated in that. And all other details in exclusion, you have made your opinion about that. Okay? You follow me? No one has an opinion about it, whether Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston actually had a relationship, because we can't fucking know, because we're not them and we're not around them. What we have is an opinion of the details written by one particular person about that story, crafted in such a way to make us feel a certain way. And this is not a conspiracy. This is not, the media does not get together and have a fucking, Davos meeting about how to craft the narrative about Brad and Angelina, Brad and Jennifer Aniston, or anybody else for that fucking matter. They don't, because there will be another magazine that goes, they're finally getting back together, right next to it on the fucking stand. And if that's the way you lean, you will pick that one up. Okay. And neither one of them has the full story. Both of them have decided there are some people who really favor the idea of this, and there's some people who favor this. And we're going after those guys because we think there's more of them. And we're going after these folks. All right? You got me? Okay. Hal Sparks. Dorr, Brandt, QIT rarely cite any sources for basing their opinions on. If they do cite a source, it's always from the discredited rag publication. Opinions should be based on facts. Well, it isn't even discredited rag publications, PHKO. They cite the mainstream media, or they cite someone who cites the mainstream media, the people who are actually doing the interviews, actually getting the stuff. So, opinions on celebrity couples. Why the fuck is this news? Don't know, don't care. Well, I'm using this as an extreme example, but it applies to all stories that you see in the news. That, one, you can't possibly have a true opinion unless you're present, unless you're getting a really, like a multitude of views and you're going, okay, I've kind of grabbed all the details that anybody who was even standing there could possibly have, right? I've heard the pros and cons in this, a lot of variant. The diversity is our strength in in the information that we can gather, correct? You can pick up enough story stuff where you go, okay, best case scenario, from the details and from anecdotal stories and a mix of stuff, I can put together an idea of if I had to make a decision, or when I have to make a decision about how this affects me, I will do so. In the case of these relationship stories, which is the exaggerated version, or some sort of, ideological story that you see where you get a snippet and you're supposed to react. You're supposed to have an opinion. You're supposed to immediately go, I am this. This is my side, so I'm going to stand here and I'm going to argue this point, even if it's not germane to what's actually happening. And that brings us to the sort of transgender Rachel Dolezal, or the dude who decided he's Korean and had facial surgery and all that kind of stuff. And you know what I'm talking about? Like, why would that be Korean people's fault? We get to that. That you feel like you have to have an opinion based on it. I'm here to tell you, in those cases, you don't. And as a matter of fact, certain anecdotal stories that come up that are, you'll see short videos online, those kind of things, which I just saw, like, I think Anna was on Sitch and Adams' show, and she was, they're two guys who sort of review videos and that kind of stuff, and I think my shit's long form. I think they're on for like 8 hours every Sunday. What the hell? But she said she actually had an editorial meeting with her folks, with her team. Must be nice, to not bring her, anecdotal snippet videos of, police violence or whatever they are, because they've been caught on their heels so many times by reacting to stuff that turned out not to be what they said it was later. That they've had to retract so much shit by chasing every fucking laser pointer story that's in social media, trying to keep on top of it, that they just decide they can't do it anymore. Which, again, I would like to remind everyone that if you do something a bunch of times and you realize over time you were wrong, and each time you sort of get a little more reticent to go after that, you know what you're doing? You're coming to a realization, and you're doing that realization incrementally. That's right. You have had an incremental realization. Over time, you learned a fucking lesson. One, by the way, that I did not need to be taught, and I reminded people of very early. And I've tried to keep you guys aware of that fact for a bunch of times. And I tend not to chase those things, but I'm not getting any goddamn credit from those folks for going, Sparks was right. You can't just chase every fucking laser pointer story. Anyway, so my point to you guys, and I think again, those stories at the counter, those snippets on the news, and those kind of things. When you produce an opinion on those things, all that is a reflection, a refraction. I wouldn't call it even a reflection, a refraction of a bounce back of your ethics, your morals projected outward onto whatever minimal details that you possibly have. And to me, anytime I saw one of those relationship stories, I'm like, okay, what is this person presenting that they allege these two people are doing wrong? Well, try not to do that then. That would be it. Not, oh my God, can you believe she did that? Can you believe he did that? Because I don't know if that's even fucking true. You don't. Everything is a fucking bedtime story. And, as far as the game of telephone that we all hear. So I would say to you, anytime you immediately have an opinion about a news story or something that comes up, understand that whether you want it to be or not, it is more a reflection of your moral uh, focus than it is of what actually happened in that situation, for good or for bad. And in that moment, when you have an opinion about some of these stories and they come up, I would request that you would recognize your response to it. And the only question you have to ask in that moment is this truly how I feel about it? Give this man some credit, you heathen banana squitters. Is this truly reflective of what I feel showing itself on this actual situation? Or am I projecting this forward because I'm sort of allowing myself to be programmed to do it? That it's a knee-jerk reaction. Programming is a bad way to phrase it. You know what I'm talking about. Like, it's a knee-jerk reaction. I see this, I feel this. I see this, I feel this. Instead of going, okay, hold on, what's actually going on here? What's going on here? Because in real life, that's what you do. Most of these things we encounter on social media, if you encounter them in real life, your first response would not be to blaze into some situation, pick someone to scream at, and then start yelling. You would go, hey, what's going on? What's going on here? That would be your first response, would it not? Most people, I think. And so I would like to say, you have permission to do that and not form an immediate opinion on stuff until you have enough of a take on it to garner a genuine either you can offer up a solution, or you can recognize that you should play no part in the entire situation, however it's breaking out, and going, oh, I see, both of you are fucking crazy, I'll be leaving now. That's and we'll get to that. Somebody was like, Hal, what's your take on the Putin meeting with Prigozhin? Yeah, we'll get to that. That's in my news feed this morning, Kath. I just got off on this tangent because it has two valuable points, and I'll wrap this up and then we'll move on into this because one is TYT apparently is catching a lot of shit beyond what they're, whatever they're saying on their own, for coming around to the fact that they have built their audience on an idea that you must parrot a certain talking point or take, or you are not just like wrong or mistaken, you're evil. And so when you build your fucking castle on that kind of sand, it doesn't take a genius like myself to see off in the distance where that might come back to bite you in the ass. And so I have chosen in this show, as hard as it might be at times, to not build on that kind of sand. Does that make sense? I'm not going to walk out on a lot of these limbs. I've done it in a couple of areas, like the Hunter Biden laptop thing, partly as a poke and a prod, but also because I have genuine reason to believe what I'm saying. But the important thing is, and what's going on at TYT and whether or not they get all that drama and stuff that's happening apparently all over the web. And there's been a bunch of that shit with the fucking whatever the Marxist dickheads, they what's the something left or whatever, I don't know. Anyways, those folks, they're just backbiting. None of us know the background of their personal relationship and whether they've had a little shrimp forks in each other over the years and all this stuff. And this is the time that broke it out so that it allowed them to finally, go for the jugular or something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. It can't. None of us can reflect onto that situation because we're not going to be in that situation. None of you are running, a reactionary clickbait, media empire. So I don't know how it will reflect on you. The only area that it can actually, I think, present us with a lesson worth learning, it's that incrementalism is a material reality that is necessary for the long-lasting growth and success of any biological, economic, or intellectual, philosophical, or political system. And anybody who tells you it doesn't is selling something. And that Stoic optimism is, in my estimation, written into the very fabric of the universe in that regard, because the fact that that's how everything worth a goddamn is built means that everybody, and the vast majority of human beings on this fucking planet do this, need to get up every day with hope in their heart and keep walking forward. And anybody who sells you the idea that you can just sit there and go, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, with a remote control, and you can make it all fixed, is, again, it's a multi-level marketing scheme posing as politics. Yeah. Thanks, Jose. Appreciate it. You and Bo of the fifth column. He seems to be quite a good dude. Stoicism isn't pessimistic, it's boldly optimistic. That's absolutely right. TYT lost me when Roland Martin was selling cryptocurrency. Whatever. Oh my God. Russell Brand has started selling gold. Like, it's so fucking good. It's, I don't know, if, like, his clips, he now is straight up Daily Wire stuff. It's hilarious. All right, let's get to some stories, though. I've never met Bo, but I hear good things. So let's jump in there. Couple of things. All right. Let's jump into where I have been right all along. So one of the stories is that this Hunter Biden's lawyer claims he has proof that J6 masterminds also fabricated laptop lies. Okay. You guys will recall, and when this story came up, I was just like, hang on a second. I've often felt this was an on your left moment for me. You know that you guys may know that on one of my favorite pictures is, hold on. I'll open this up in a way. Is the Captain America against the Thanos army by himself. I mean, I just love that moment. It makes my heart swell. And the idea that this guy is like, okay, maybe it's just me, but if it's just me, I fight until I can't move anymore. And the scene where he just stands up and it's fucking everybody. And he just goes, he just takes that step. And then in a moment you hear the on your left. And then all the things open and suddenly he's got backup. It's beautiful. Love that moment. But the decision was made, like when he jumped on the grenade in the first movie, to do what he had to do to save others and be good no matter if anybody has his back and even if he's treated like shit. Literally, in one of the great reasons why Captain America First Avenger is the best Marvel film, feel free to at me, and probably that's happening right now in the chat, is because it starts with him jumping on a grenade. He signs up to serve and all that kind of stuff, even though he weighs like this much. And and in doing so, yes, he would save Agent Carter in theory, although she was further away. But he saves some of the other soldier. He would save some of the other soldiers that were treating him like shit. So that in and of itself, that moment where that decision is made, at that moment, he gives himself up for that. That's why that line leads inexorably to that moment in the storyline. And I find it beautiful. And I find, again, we only reflect on the things that that motivate us, right? So, and by the way, who in the chat room has the laptop now? Somebody, one of you guys has got it right now, I think. So, anyways, I just love that idea. And sometimes in this whole Hunter Biden laptop nonsense, I've had my moments of feeling like, okay, it's just me, right? Everybody's now saying, even though the Washington Post says it's a forensic nightmare and they weren't able to corroborate shit except the Bed Bath and Beyond coupons that are on there were put out the same day. Not even that they were the same ones, but yes, Bed Bath & Beyond on June 3rd, 2016 put out a coupon, and there's one, and that one is on the laptop. So cogito ergo sum, e pluribus unum, it must be real. Fucking hell. So even though that's happening, everybody's like, the laptop, like, you mean the hard drive named laptop? The fuck out of here. Okay, so Hunter Biden's team has hired this former Republican, Denver Riggleman, who was he worked on the jams. Here you go. This is, and PHKO, this might be a good answer for you. This guy used to be a Tea Party guy, was elected on the Tea Party idea. And then over time in government, apparently had an awakening. Said, I can still have my conservative ideas, but I got to work with other people because this is fucking America and it's a democracy and we're all trying to solve the problem. I just think there are different solutions. And he kind of came around to that, to the point where he either got voted out or left because of the rise of MAGA in his own party. And then he ended up working for the Jan 6 team because he was so against the very fascism you were referring to. I think that's the difference, right? And you got to believe that there are the Denver Rigglemans out there that are still in office who are like, fuck, I got to play footsie with these dickheads or I'm not going to be in here. And if I'm not here, it's going to be somebody worse. Think of it as the Republican version of sort of the Manchin situation where, you know, do you like Manchin and he's kind of a Republican anyways, and what's the fucking difference? I'll tell you what the difference is. Wait till a Republican has that seat. It's way fucking worse. Anyways, so I'll take somebody who votes with us 80% of the time over somebody who votes with Trump 99.9% of the time. And the other part is just because they don't know what the fuck he's talking about. All right. Former Republican Rep. Denver Riggleman has joined the legal team for Hunter Biden, similar to what he did for the Jan 6 committee, in exploring the tech pieces of the conspiracies that the GOP has pushed for the past 3 years. Speaking to CNN's Jim Acosta on Sunday, Riggleman explained he's been working on the technical and analytical report compared to phone forensics as it pertains to the infamous laptop. Now, I think laptop should be in quotes, but that's just me. He goes, and I've been tracking data over the past 2 years. He explained, and this is why I got to say, I feel like there's some camaraderie. If you'll recall, he goes, explain the big reason you wanted to take on the role is I hate bullies, which, if you'll recall, is exactly what Captain America says to the doctor when he goes, do you want to kill Nazis? And he's like, I don't want to kill anybody. I hate bullies. I don't care where they're from. That's what he says. I just find that great. Anyways, another point he realizes is that many of the people pushing the Hunter Biden conspiracy theories are the same people pushing Jan 6 conspiracies like Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, Peter Navarro, and others. And by conspiracies, he means not only that they are pushing the stolen election shit, but they're also concocting this stuff about Ray Epps and there were a bunch of feds and it wouldn't have happened except for the I don't know, the DARPA has a mind ray that makes maggots dumber than they already are. There's a bunch. He goes, there's some things I can't talk about. Unlike the grifters, I have to have transparency and verification to stand up in a court of law. But I can tell you this, Riggleman continued. What we want to look at first is the data. This is, and I want everybody, I want everybody to listen to the language on this because I feel heard. What we want to look at first is the data out there purported to be Hunter Biden's laptop. Purported to be. And we wanted to see if there was any forensic format and make sure there was no forensic validity to it. And Jim, there was none. Jim, if you're looking at 4chan or from a site like Marco Polo, you have to have forensic validity. And I am shocked that anybody in Congress would use that data or any journalist would use those sources because of what we found out. We do have the data. We have the ones and zeros. We do have the facts based on the ones and zeros, and we have found that it's the very same folks. We have videos. We have them self-identifying and manipulating the data. We have people like Steve Bannon using words like editorial creativity, and we have specific instances of fabrication and manipulation of the data. He went on to say that Congress should know that whatever data is in the public domain has no relation to any forensic copy attached to a Hunter Biden laptop. And again, a laptop. That's a, not the, as if there's a the, because there ain't no the. There is no Hunter Biden laptop. All this shit they're pushing around is a conglomeration of bullshit, mix of real and fabricated to create a dirty bomb of garbage. They couldn't make a nuke because they needed, I guess, real evidence to make a nuke. So they made a dirty bomb. That's what this is. This is an info dirty bomb. That's what the laptop hard drive is. And it looks like, to us, that most of the data is curated. It's almost like a mixtape of multiple data sources that's gone through the hands of 30 or 40 people. Rudy Giuliani has been the source of a lot of the allegations involving the Bidens in Ukraine. It was just last month that Raw Story connected Giuliani to document Rep. Comer using that's the 1038 or the 10 whatever, the FD 1028. I believe that too. I think Raw Story is right on the money that Giuliani is the guy who was the trusted source, or had one of his quote unquote trusted sources left over from 9/11, to feed bullshit into the system that they did all during, like the post 9/11 Iraq, the lead up to Iraq and Afghanistan. Those that wanted to do the Project for a New American Century attack on 7 countries that Wesley, what's his name, Wesley Clark, that he's like, I saw this document where they're like, we want to do these 7 Middle Eastern countries in a row, and the Bushies were all like gung-ho on doing that. He was like, that's what the PNAC wants to do. The folks that were into that were like, okay, we're going to need to feed data in yellow cake like bullshit into the system to credulous people, meaning well-meaning folks, but that will buy it, And we're going to need people who are on our team to do it, who are either credulous themselves, so we'll feed them bullshit and they believe us, or they're lying on our behalf. But either way, that's the system that was put in place that got us into Iraq and went in that direction. And you could see the intel working its way up the chain. It was a structured plan from those who thought, okay, this has to be done. And again, for the record, not everybody involved in that was doing this from like, we need to destroy the world. The Christians must win over the Muslims. A lot of them thought these 7 countries were a direct threat to democracy in the world, and just thought, okay, I've got to be the person to do the awful. It doesn't mean they're right, and it's a terrible thing. But they're not coming at it from some sort of weird, like this idea that all evil in the world happens by people rubbing their hands together and doing some sort of like Dr. Evil laugh is fucking childish. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That phrase has been around for a long time for good reason. All right. Claim of the bribery scheme involving Biden's Comer and Senator Chuck Grassley went so far as to claim that there were 15 tapes that existed that would prove the bribery scandal. 17 actually, but 15 of Biden and 15 of Hunter Biden, 2 of Joe Biden. Only a few weeks later, Giuliani claimed the person who had the tapes had been killed and alleged mysterious circumstances. Giuliani didn't say the person's name, but claimed she was the late wife of a former CEO of Burisma, which I believe is pronounced...
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
Yeah. Hold on, I need to move this over here so I can see. So, in this story, the former CEO of Burisma, who also died of mysterious circumstances, he did, she didn't, whatever. According to the Fox website, the person who made the tapes was male. That was the former head of Burisma, who died before, but he died in 2011. That's what. Yeah. The only problem is that the man Giuliani referenced died in 2011 before either Biden was involved. Before, well, Joe wasn't, but before Hunter even came on. Now Giuliani's claiming that the wife of that CEO who had the tapes was killed. Insofar as anybody knows, she's still alive, but whatever. Not like that fucking matters. Unless he knows the people who got her killed, and then that's a bigger story. All right. A lot of the things that they're saying is not. They are. Let's see. A lot of things they say are not validated and ridiculous, and we found cases of fabricating data. Riggleman said of the far right. He went on to attach the so-called IRS whistleblowers who have never gone through the legal process to be declared actual whistleblowers. Who said that? Who was the fucking... Yes? All right. According to Riggleman, the men seem to have the facts and witnesses that somehow disappear. They're also refusing to speak to investigators. They're only speaking to Republican lawmakers and the media. The witnesses turning up missing or dead, and sometimes the data disappears into the twilight. People can't spell words correctly or actually go through how a laptop was broken down into these types of notes, and there's no background information when it comes to what the WhatsApp message is or what the forensic validity of that is. That's the other fascinating part. So they put around that WhatsApp message that was a big deal, like, oh, my dad's sitting right here, it was a WhatsApp message. Okay. And then they're putting out that it's in a blue bubble, right? Well, WhatsApp messages are green, iMessage is blue, but Rudy Giuliani, if you'll recall, remember how I was like, metadata, or it didn't happen, repeatedly was holding up these iMessage bubble pictures that he had screenshots of screenshots of, and they had printed them out, and he was holding them up. And I would say to you guys, what are we looking at here? What are we looking at? And someone who's I suppose dense or easily hypnotized would go, we're looking at America's mayor holding up terrible messages from Hunter Biden to his criminal conspirators. When in reality, what you're looking at is a farty old man who tried to get a woman he thought was 15 years old to touch his dick, holding up a printout of something that none of us, and this goes back to sort of our earlier conversation, has any idea where it came from. Nor is he offering that information. And again, if somebody is not offering the forensic data, the metadata on something, there's a reason for it, because, yeah. All right. So that's my job, to break this stuff down. But for me, what individuals need to realize out there is that the truth does matter. And when you have an invasion of privacy like this, it is the amount of data that's been stolen or pilfered and the impressive ecosystem for someone to make money. It's an abomination. Riggleman explained that it's already well known that Hunter Biden did very bad things, was addicted to drugs, and did many other things. To make something up to use for an election, he called it unacceptable. The thing is just a flank to an election. That's an awful thing you want to use, he continued. So I'll say this, for any type of whistleblower, you've got to have proof. You've got to have validity. What we like to call, in the guys named after a computer world, metadata, or it didn't happen. And now that we know that there's even text messages that were made up, and I think, Jim, May 24th, 25th, 26th of 2018, we had text messages that were actually made up, fabricated between a United States Secret Service agent, and were reported by the New York Post, which said they had forensic validity. That was just BS. He went on to say it's impossible. And by the way, you wonder why I call Miranda Devine's book a complete work of fiction. This is why. Because it all stems off of this shit. And again, metadata didn't fucking happen. He went on to say that it's possible that the IRS agents perhaps weren't trained properly, or they're credulous idiots or liars, or they're grifters, or they're grifters. I think they're look at that. Raw Story or whoever type this up for you. They are, never mind. Grifters are some kind of combination of all of that. Still, what bothers him is that the same people peddling the same claims, he says, they're just the same as the other conspiracies, theories they invented. I have been, like, I gotta say, there have been a few moments in this where I've like, okay, people have apparently just moved on and are buying this shit. When the Washington Post put out that story that they verified the laptop, and I broke that whole thing down. You guys will recall. I went through that whole article, and it was stunningly full of shit. Yes, manufactured evidence. Yeah, concocted. So the fascinating part for me was that like everybody else had seemed to sort of move on and accept it at that point. Even though if you read the story, you're like, what the fuck? No, that's not how any of this works. Even the title of the article was destroyed by the third, fifth, and seventh paragraphs, like I mentioned. They always look for that, in case you don't know. Third, fifth, seventh paragraph. Always look for the yeah buts in the story. That whole story is a yeah but to the title, but it worked for the Washington Post, and that story got more circulation than any story in I think in the Washington Post in 2022, but for Russia invades Ukraine. So, there were times when I was like, all right, God damn it. Everybody else has just moved on and is pretending this is real or has just accepted it as such and is just parroting this horse shit when it's, anyways. It's nice. Damn, it feels good to be a gangsta moment. That's exactly right, Mark. Your last show on Gal Luft was most excellent. More, please. Thank you, Carl Smith. Yeah, that's along with it as well. My goal in these situations is to hold that line. Part of the raison d'etre behind this show is in the cases where the media has moved on or has chosen to believe something, or the public, quite frankly, because the media chases the public, not the other way around, has moved on an idea that is still not true. I'm going to be stubborn about this shit. And occasionally, in my ridiculous stubbornness, I will, stand up, busted shield, and keep walking forward, even though everybody else is like, I don't know. And eventually, I feel, and this is my optimistic stoicism rearing its glorious head, people will come around to that. And I think the very fact that Jim Acosta had this dude on, and look, this is the video of it, of that interview. Acosta is, kudos to him for interviewing the guy and actually speaking with him at some length. But he seems a couple of times to have like Tucker Carlson brow, because he's someone as good as he is at his job who has reported on the laptop without, using purported or alleged around it. And that contributes to the mistake. Nobody's going to bat 1,000 on this stuff. Everybody's going to get caught up in stories. And sometimes you're going to move ahead because you think you saw enough that, in any other circumstance, we just go, can we move ahead, please? Because this is obviously true. There was a hurricane. We don't have to pretend. Was it a tropical storm? Fuck it. It was a hurricane. What's the point? That's okay. Everybody's going to go there. But it's been years. And all this stuff is out there, and none of it lines up. None of it. Even the pictures of fucking Hunter being an addict and a dick and being with hookers and all that kind of stuff was clearly taken from his fucking phone. So the fact that it ended up on this laptop that was his business laptop, and of the three, it magically was on that, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, it's so ham-handed. And so it's nice on occasion when it seems like I am having one of those weeks with all the bad words that people are calling the folks over at TYT are the very things that TYT has called the Hal Sparkses of the world for a long time. And all I've been doing is dragging this fucking bag of rocks. Yeah. Up a hill. Hal, if you're furthering the echo chamber, you're not good, Jim Acosta. Again, I don't know if I think he's waking up to Acosta. Again, if you think he's right now, but he's wrong the rest of the time, he might be having a broken clock moment. That doesn't change the facts of the situation. Yeah. TYT drank their own Kool-Aid. I don't know. I think they ran out of Kool-Aid maybe, and they're like, holy shit, what have I been saying? So I just think it's kind of a crucial thing. And again, ultimately, does how the Washington Post fucks up a story, or how TYT sells a narrative, or Dorr or Russell, or even me, if I'm presenting you with something, and I'm presenting you with my opinion on something, you don't need to have my opinion. You I want to give you as much to take away from it as possible, and I want to be trustworthy to you, but I don't want you to automatically parrot stuff I'm doing. I want it to line up. So if I say something and you're like, what? Um, I either believe that it will pay off over time, and it might take you a little while to come around. You know, you might go, I'm not sure about that. And then eventually you go, oh, I see what you were saying. I get it. Okay. I was expecting a bumper sticker, and I got something else, and you know, ethically, morally, we're on the same page. You just have a different take on a different singular moment, an anecdotal second, as opposed to, the hook, line, and sinker approach, which is that entire media sphere. Now, can I share with you guys some other stories? Okay, this is a couple of things. Where is this? Let's go back to here. Okay. Some weird there's a couple of weird things happening in the oil markets. And I know this can get like boring for some people, I suppose. But the price of oil and all that kind of stuff, partly for me, it gets into the I told you so zone for me in a fun way. Because again, Trump was saying that if Biden gets in, the economy is doomed, and it's going to be $200 a barrel for oil, and you're blah blah blah. Okay, and remember a little bit ago, the Saudis met with Biden, and then they refused to increase output, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, they don't respect Joe Biden. They don't like him. They're going about they respected me. They're doing central casting. They're doing the central casting. They don't like Joe Biden. He's Sleepy Joe, and they like to be awake. They like, you can't fall asleep while holding the glowing orb. You can't do it." So the story is that the Saudis the Saudis were going to lower output, and they were going to raise oil price. They were going to fuck the whole thing and blah, 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 because they were going to show Biden who's boss. Well, there's been this weird thing in that, a lot of you, I think you've heard the story about Russia not being able to lower their output because if you lower it too much, you have to close wells. And if you close them, they back up and they basically seal, and you have to redig them. And same thing with like pipelines, if you seal them up for too long, liquid pipelines, I don't know if the rule applies to natural gas, but it probably not, because you can vent it quietly all along the line, which is also what the Russians do to manipulate the price. But when it comes to oil, you'll recall during 2020, when the world shut down and gas was at $1.38, because no one was going anywhere, I kept them at home. That I don't know why I keep like jumping into the weird SNL guy's version of Trump, but it's fun. It's the reasoning is that like oil was cheap. It was a negative $32 a barrel, so it was just sitting everywhere. And so literally, there were countries saying, "Give me 32. I'll give you $32 just to take this fucking thing because I don't have anywhere to put it." And so Trump could have refilled the entire strategic reserves at the expense of our enemies. He literally could have charged Saudi Arabia and Venezuela and other countries that produce a lot of oil, could have paid us to fill up our national reserve, and he didn't do it. He arranged for them to the price to come back up, and then he filled it up at 25, 27, or $28 a barrel. When in reality, it's dropped down to 10 several times with not that big of a difference in the size of the population of the earth, and in maybe 15 years ago. So the idea that he would get it to double, what it had been in 2004 or something like that is a little silly. So, point being, the idea was that the cost of oil, the production of oil, there's too much of it anyways, and the story we'd heard about the Russians was that they got a certain amount to break even, they're at like 50 some odd dollars a barrel, depending on who you ask. 55, they have to sell it for 55 because it costs them $51 to make it, to extract it and transport it. So the extraction and transportation costs are at 51 bucks a barrel, and they need to sell it for 55, basically to break even, because I guess you got to feed the crews on the boats on the way there. So Saudi Arabia's break-even price is $81. 81. That's at 10 million barrels a day production. They are at 8 million barrels a day, which puts it at possibly $100 a barrel. They make less. They have to produce more. If they're producing more, they're bringing in more money for large amounts of the broad amount of oil that they put out. And this is so weird. They if they narrow it at all, they use that money for other stuff. They can lower the price of, or they can raise the price. They can use that extra money to fund all these projects that MBS is doing. If they lower production and they have to cut the price, and he's still spending that same amount, that money is already spoken for. The lack of profit, the debt that's almost created by it is that amount is already, that extra 20 bucks per barrel is already attached to other projects, and it needs to come in no matter what. So they need $100 a barrel for what they're producing at 8 million a day to get there, and it's not going there. It jumped for a couple of days, and then it went back to like 73 right now. So the other weird story. This is what this is about. There has been this weird thing where multiple Russian oil tankers and Saudi tankers are just randomly parking in the ocean and just sitting idle until China essentially uses enough oil where they need more. They are producing more oil than their secondary markets can actually process and use. And India, that's processing some of this shit and selling the process, the actual gasoline and diesel fuel and plastic, to Europe legally by, if they're buying Russian oil to make it, or they're getting Saudi oil or whatever. Mostly it's Russian and Venezuelan, I think. That conversion, it's production intensive. Shit's just like they can only do so much. They've only got so many plants. They can only process it so much. So these basically these big tankers are sitting there, and the production drop seems to be more about raising the volume of, or raising the price of oil because they are overproducing. The question is there been really a cutback at all? Or if they're just parking it and pretending it doesn't exist. They're not putting it on the market. They're saying they're cutting production, but they aren't, because they can't. Because they're saying they're going from 10 to 8. In reality, they're selling 2 million more to China or somebody else, and they're trying not to let the rest, like the Europeans or the Americans, know about it or get mad about it, just like the Russians are doing. They're selling it to this secondary market. So a fleet of tankers that sprouted up out of nowhere to keep Russia's oil moving has disbanded even faster than it emerged, underscoring the challenges involved in keeping track of who's helping Moscow to get its petroleum to buyers around the world. Mumbai-based Gadak Ship Management now marshals a fleet of just 4 oil tankers, according to Equasis, an international maritime database set up to promote safe shipping. As recently as April, it had 42, having amassed most of those carriers in under a year. To contact a contact number for Gadak via Aquasis database didn't work, and a message to an email address given for the firm wasn't immediately returned. They're 42 or 48 ships, 48 ships. Yeah, because there's 6 of them still listed under it. 42, which is the name of my Mason Lodge. Interesting. That's weird. It's also the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Curious? Coincidence? I think not. But the important thing is that these ships just are ghost ships now. There's like 40, whatever, let's just say 36 ships just roaming around, no markings, supposedly attached to Dubai, carrying Russian oil, God knows fucking where, for nothing. It's just, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, it's always 42, isn't it? And let me see if, like, hold on. Yeah. Um, let's see. Let me go to the news on this. Yeah. Trying to go. See, it's me. Where are you, you silly story? I'll find it later. I've got it in my pictures. I posted it on my threads, I think. Um, anyways, the Saudis have another oil fleet parked as well. Alice Arthur Dent. Oh God. I'd rather be Zaphod Beeblebrox. I think I'm much more the look. Yeah. So right. Here's another story, real quick. This is okay. One of the things you'll hear about gun violence in the United States is the over half of the gun deaths in the United States are suicides. A big portion of them, they're reason why gun deaths center around rural states, places like Wyoming. Your deaths per 100,000 spike in these very rural areas, and they are acts of desperation by poor rural white folks largely, and they end themselves using a gun. Something in the order of 56%, right? The others are murders spread out through the rest of the country. And when you remove big cities, where, by the way, this would be true of coffee, dates, the fruit, and the activity, and movie tickets sold. If you remove the biggest cities in America, the drop off to statistically is enormous. So if you take out, Chicago, DC, especially DC has the highest murder rate in the country. Chicago, DC, LA, Houston, and then ultimately, those cities it's a per capita thing because of the volume of people that live there. But the volume of actual murders, is like Alabama and Mississippi, like 3 rural states and Texas, have a huge part of that number as well. But the top 6, the 3 biggest cities with sort of violence issues to it: New York, Chicago, L.A., to some degree Dallas and Houston, sort of a mix of the two, with I guess a little bit of Austin, and then Mississippi and Alabama. If you take those out, the gun deaths in America drop to like we're 198th in the world or some silliness. It's like it's so small statistically, 1-to-1 with human beings, right? There's a huge, if you remove those. Now, you can't remove those, and you got to deal with the problem that's actually there. And a lot of it is ghost guns and straw purchases from places where, hey man, it's just America, clack, in like Indiana, those ending up in Chicago, and everybody's like, Chicago has the hardest gun laws in the country, and look at all the gun deaths. And like, yeah, it's because all the guns come in from places that don't have the same laws. So obviously, but we need a border. We got to have a border. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. So statistically, a lot has been said about the tech sector and the Dow and all that kind of stuff, and that there's been losses, and that it's doing well, but it's edging on a bear market and maybe a recession and blah blah, and all that conversation we've been having for the last part of a year. Well, turns out, and this is yeah, take away China and a stealth bull market emerges. So comparatively, if you take away the central part of the economic criminality on the planet, the biggest site of bullshit, and if I was that guy, I would duck. Because that's what is that thing? Shit, cannonballs. Emerging markets look stronger the less China is in the picture, and an unexpected performance in debt looks like one place to start. some contrarian positivity. Oh my God, I feel so seen. I can barely get over it. What might actually work out? What might actually work out well? Bull markets tend not to announce their presence with a bang. They're more likely to get underway when nobody is paying attention. On that basis, the excitement over artificial intelligence suggests it's more of an echo bubble from the great surge in technology stocks during the pandemic, rather than something that's likely to endure. Meanwhile, this because you can't centralize it. It's like penicillin versus a vaccine that is proprietary and you've got the rights to. The AI is going to like take off in different directions, be used for a bunch of different shit. Nobody's got a lock on it. Even OpenAI is not the singular source, and Microsoft and Facebook and stuff, they're working on their own. These large language models are basically giant chatbots. It's not that hard. You're just talking them into other shit. And basically, it's going to the irony of AI is its biggest impact is going to be found in education, learning skills and that kind of stuff. It's not going to quite be like sticking a spike in the back of your head and going, I know Kung Fu. But it will create more personal lesson plans based on your own life and your engagement with them that would, be like the perfect teacher, right? Eventually, that's where we're going to go. And it has a lot of other uses, but that's probably the place where it'll change the most. So if you have a hard time with math, or you have a hard time with economics, or you have a hard time with poetry or whatever the fuck, but you want to learn it, AI will eventually, you'll have an interactive AI that you deal with. It'll be like the perfect teacher that figures out the analogy that works for you because it knows it's worked with you personally a lot. So it's the co-pilot concept. AI is going to be a co-pilot. That's where he's going. Meanwhile, the economic data in the U.S. continues to be Sphinx-like, inscrutably moving in the direction of a soft landing if you squint, but with much noise and great room for interpretations. Right, so there's plenty of news to be made. Don't worry, Bloomberg. Don't worry, MarketWatch. Don't worry, CNBC. Don't worry, Maria Bartiromo. You'll be able to bullshit and fearmonger and scare the living dick out of everyone for the next, couple, like year and a half, as everything in retrospect will go, well, that wasn't actually so bad. That could have been a lot worse. What was I talking about? What was it? Honestly, what did I start this show at? Fucking hell. While attention has been focused on AI and the Federal Reserve, a stealth bull market, if there is such a thing, and there is, of course, might just have started in emerging market debt. The figures in this chart are a total return on a total return dollar basis from Bloomberg's aggregate indexes, which include both government and corporate bonds. They show the return you would have generated if you bought on the day last October when the U.S. bond market made its most recent bottom. Emerging market debt has surged since U.S. bonds bottomed. Total return, Bloomberg aggregate, blah, blah, blah. Colombia, 58%. Hungary, 38%. Mexico, 24%. Thailand, 19%. Brazil, 12%. India, 9%. U.S., 6.1%. But I thought debtness. I thought we were debting ourselves and we were fucking debted. We're debt. And no one will buy our debt. And we're going to have to go hand in hand to the rest of the world. And no one will want our debt. All right. Similarly, emerging market currencies have staged a great rally without capturing as much attention as the developments in artificial intelligence. It's the Iraqi dinar. Let's go Q. No. Do you guys know about the QAnon Iraqi dinar thing? Please tell me, chat room, please tell me you guys know about that horse shit. Apparently, if you don't know, the QAnon folks, the QAnon folks think that that Trump made a deal to supercharge the Iraqi dinar, the currency of Iraq, that was absolutely, you could buy like 7 for a nickel, and that eventually it's going to be 1-to-1 with the dollar. And QAnon people were investing their life savings into the Iraqi dinar. And they're all those folks are, they're the same thing with the Nasara Jassara, where there's the Great Reset. Remember the Great Reset? Weren't we supposed to be vaccine zombies and then Great Reset and then Iraqi dinar pow? You know what? Again, yeah, Nasarja, there it is. Like, yes, like the death of the petrodollar. The petrodollar will die. There will be no petrodollar. But the Iraqi dinar is going to be ascendant. And the gold will, as soon as there's a BRICS coin, I'm buying in, because Sure, it will be used mostly for human trafficking, but slavery is a growth industry in Trump's America. Fucking hell. Oh yes, and well, Adam Westish, he goes, you forgot about the Democrats all going to prison. I'd like to say for the record, no, you forgot all about the Hillary Clinton clones that were running around because Hillary had already been hung at Guantanamo, and at some point they were going to hang her clone just for good measure. Like your clone, even if it had all your memories, is somehow fucking guilty for what you did. How does that make sense? He's like, I just want to dig that fucker up and beat him to death again. What? Oh, God. Anyway, so yes. There's not enough of any other currency. It would have to be the euro. You're onto something there, West Webb. And it won't be the euro because they can't make enough of them. We can. And one of the reasons why there's so many US dollars in circulation, and yet there's, the inflation, obviously inflation in the United States is going down, but our wages are going up at the same time. And it's because we're basically internationalizing the dollar at a clip that is not because of COVID. Because all the countries that mismanage their currency, Turkey and all these other countries, almost everybody in those countries is using US dollars to buy and sell shit. They're either using euros or they're using dollars. And you can get access to more dollars because there are more in circulation, have been for a long time, because we don't buy them and burn them the way we used to. And we do a lot of it digitally. We remove stuff from the, we deal with our excess currency in the digital world, but the physical dollars that are out there are still floating the fuck around, and they're still good. They're still legal tender. So they're everywhere. And okay, so this is emerging market carrying trades are beating even U.S. equities. I love this. This is startling. The history of the yen carry trade has been troubled to say the least. It performed fantastically in the years ahead of the global financial crisis, only then to stage a collapse. Turned out to have been used as a way to leverage bets on equities and credit. When the direction turned, money poured out of carry even more quickly than it had poured in. Is this a symptom of speculation then to go with rising cryptocurrencies and the fat multiples payable for artificial intelligence stocks? Or should we take what the market is saying seriously and agree that emerging markets, with very little fanfare, have entered a bull market? To my pleasant surprise, the latter does look plausible. Yes, so actual people in actual countries doing actual work to build factories and make shit for human beings to actually consume or wear or whatever outside of China. And I'll show you this. Look at this guy right here. On long-term valuation metrics, EM stocks, emerging markets stocks look very cheap. Yeah, well, these are cheap for a good reason. But U.S., not so much. India stocks, everybody jumped in. North America in general, which is, what there are of Mexican ones and Canadian ones. The developed world is a general rule. Well, and then there's a drop off to global when you include all the rough spots. Japan's doing all right next to Europe, minus the UK. Mexico, look at Mexico. Look at Mexico. Now, can I just say that one of the things right there, and congratulations, Mexico. There will be a trend, and I'm going to call it right now, where Spanish is the new Mandarin. Just count on it. Spanish is the new Mandarin. And mostly out of respect, because everybody you'll do business with in Mexico will speak English also. But because the cost of labor in Mexico is cheaper than it is in China right now, and factories are being built there at a clip of like 5x comparatively, and that's what's going to happen. All of our border woes are going to be Mexico's in a couple of years. Just letting you know. Period. The wall will be effectively meaningless because people won't be steaming across it. They'll be trying to get into Mexico to get factory jobs or to get jobs surrounding all the factory jobs down there. And these won't be factories that are leaving the United States. These will be factories that have left China and are coming closer but can't afford to operate in the United States at the cost point, so they will be in Mexico instead. And Texas, again, if America sealed the border, we got to seal the border. We got to seal it. Seal it up tight. If you sealed the border, Texas's entire economy would die in a matter of weeks. And they know that, just for the record. But in the process, if I may, and what was that? Hold on one second. My watch is going off. Okay, excellent. So, oh, by the way, like, subscribe, thumbs up, support the show. Subscribe. Please don't forget. We've got to, please subscribe. I missed. Subscribe. I'm literally clicking that with my mouse. Anyways, so yeah, so look at Mexico's the cost of them is of those stocks in their return on investment, cheapness, whatever, cyclically adjusted 10-year price earnings. The price to earnings ratio with Mexican stocks is the same as Europe minus the UK. If you add the UK to it, it's lower than Mexico. Hey maggots, guess what? Mexico. If you invested in Mexico, you'd be doing better than if you invested in European stocks. Germany, UK, the UK and Thailand are almost on par as far as your return on investment. So and by the way, India's just getting started. India's the new China in terms of large scale stuff, because everybody's moving to India because they're more trustworthy. There'll still be some gnarly stuff, because anytime you move that kind of money around, there's going to be, fucking barnacles attaching themselves to those whales. But that's, I find that hilarious. By the way, speaking of hilarious, although we don't wish direct violence on anybody, I don't know if you guys saw this. Remember this dude, Larry Nasser, who was convicted of sexually abusing Olympic athletes. He was stabbed multiple times in an altercation with another inmate. An altercation. I'm sure he picked a fight with another inmate. Maybe he tried to give them an exam and they woke up. Two people familiar with the matter told the Associated Press the attack happened Sunday at the penitentiary Coleman. People said he was in stable condition Monday. One of the people said Nasser had been stabbed in the back and in the chest. The prison was experiencing staff shortages, and the two officers assigned to the unit where Nasser was held were working mandated overtime shifts. The people were not authorized to publicly discuss details of the attack or the ongoing investigation. Spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity. Yeah. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has experienced significant staffing shortages in the last few years, an issue thrust in the spotlight when disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein took his own life at a federal jail, allegedly. Took his in a federal jail in New York in 2019. Wait, New York, 2019. Who was president in 2019? What city does he own a building in? Didn't the guy? I don't remember. So long ago. Whoever was president in 2019, didn't they used to live in New York or something? Or didn't they used to party with that guy? I don't know. I can't remember. It's been so long. An Associated Press investigation 2021 revealed nearly 1/3 of federal correction officers' positions were vacant nationwide. By the way, solid union job if you can get it. Just be careful. But yeah, so you don't have to have an opinion about it, but yeah. And by the way, does anybody immediately read that and go stabbed in the back and then in the chest? Can you just picture that? Blat, right? That's, I mean, it just sounds right. Body man, you get a free lawyer. Right. He did, he does follow, I guess he should have been in isolation or something like that, because he did molest girls, underage children. Yeah. These were minors. So you gotta, some of those prisoners, I got news for you. They might be armed robbers. They might have shot somebody in a drug deal. They might have definitely murdered somebody, engaged in violent behavior and all kinds of shit. But they also might have kids outside the jail. And the idea that one of these assholes is going to get out one day and be roaming around scares the living shit out of them, because that's how that more than likely started. Was some of these guys love to brag about what they're going to do when they get out, and pedophiles are no different. And for years, they used to get out early. One might recall that John Wayne Gacy himself got, I want to say 4 years and got out in 2 for good behavior for molesting a 15-year-old boy. And so I would imagine that anybody who was in that jail, imagine yourself in that jail and you're doing time for an armed robbery because you were broke or you just grew up in a gang-like environment, blah, blah, blah. You're still guilty. You know you did wrong. You're doing your time. You got 10 years. And you got a 13-year-old son. And John Wayne Gacy, who was 4 doors down from you, does 2 years and gets out. Uh-huh. That's in my opinion, that's more than likely how that tradition in jails started. That's my guess. All right, now, Americans, if I may, on a brighter note. Okay. Who likes chocolate? Come on. Who is it? Who likes chocolate? Because the price is going up and it's a nightmare. Chocolatey chocolateness. Do you like chocolate? My favorite ice cream, stracciatella. Yes, that's right. Vanilla gelato with just a sprinkling of chocolate on it, a splattering of it. I love just chocolate chip ice cream, not mint chip. I mean, I don't mind mint chip. It's great. But my favorite is just vanilla chocolate chip. That's what I've always liked. It was my favorite when I was a kid. Stuck with me. Like it. Stracciatella is like the grown-up version of it. In the same way that I think Mitch Hedberg said, as a matter of fact, I know he said, fettuccine Alfredo is just macaroni and cheese for adults. Stracciatella is just vanilla chocolate chip ice cream for grown-ups, right? What's your favorite? Come on, let's hear it. What's your favorite? Somebody said Rocky Road. It's too much going on. It's like bubblegum ice cream. I don't know. Chocolate chip's your favorite too? Oh, good. It's very subtle. I have very subtle taste buds. I'm sorry. They're all fake chocolate. No, they aren't. Not if you get that's what stracciatella is, like the real deal. Because you're using melted chocolate. You take melted chocolate and you slather it across in very fine lines across the top of the vanilla gelato, and it hardens quickly. Peach, lovely. Peppermint, there you go. Look out. Chocolate peanut butter is a good mix. That's fun. Dutch chocolate, what's up? What's up? Coffee, yes. My mom and my son, coffee ice cream all the way. I agree. I enjoy it a great deal. Meat, sure. Meat ice cream is good. It's a good time. It's too hard, Joy. You don't have to choose. You don't. You can just say, I feel like, I've been eating a lot of this lately. I'm enjoying this. Butterfinger Blizzard. What's a blizzard? Nobody knows. What's a blizzard? You guys see Trump going, what's this blizzard thing I've heard about? Like having his George H.W. Bush moment where he went to the grocery store and saw the laser scanner and was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, motherfucker, you don't pretend you don't know DARPA sold them this shit. Peppermint stick. Panda paws. What's panda paws? That sounds good. You know what I like? The Haagen-Dazs's chocolate covered almond and vanilla. Yeah. Whenever I used to when I would sing and burn my voice out, sometimes I would cool my throat with ice cream, and like afterwards, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have some ice cream just because the whole throat is hot, and I need a good layer of mucus to coat everything so it can heal. And so I would, that's the vanilla French almond or whatever it is, vanilla chocolate almond stuff. That's great. Italian ice is a good time. It's not ice cream, but I'm with you. Chicago, I grew up, I love me some Italian ice. That was a big thing. Me and Johnny Million and the rest of the crowd, and we'd go over to, like Homer's had it. You could get it at the White Hen. You get yeah. Oh, it's good stuff. So, chocolate. Back to chocolate. Ladies and gentlemen, chocolate, it's a chocolatey nightmare. Chocolate's prices keep rising, but Americans keep buying. U.S. sales forecast to rise 5.8% in 2023 to almost $26 billion. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. America spends enough on chocolate every year to solve homelessness, blah, blah, blah. That's what you're going to hear everywhere. Chocolate plays a special role for consumers as an everyday luxury. It's a great way of putting it, Everyday luxuries, the little things available in small doses that make you feel good. I think I have this to give myself a little treat on the regular, especially when it shows up in Starbucks and a lot of coffee drinks and the like, mochas and whatnot. There's a reason. Why the sales continue to rise, because it is finding its way into everything, and also be aware of the difference between chocolate and chocolatey. Americans are still willing to spend on chocolate, even as higher prices mean that they're getting less for the money. Purchases of chocolate confectionaries are expected to climb 5.8% this year to reach almost 26 billion, according to data from researcher Euromonitor International Limited. Volumes are forecast to rise 1.9%. That's after a 2.7% drop last year. That was the biggest since 2009. So it's bouncing around. Buying is more resilient thanks to a phenomenon known as revenge living, which yeah. Living well is the best revenge, as Gene Simmons would say. Consumers are willing to spend on the areas of their life that were impacted on the pandemic, like travel and dining. And while lockdowns obviously didn't make it impossible to eat candy bars at home, that everyday luxury is still getting swept up in the trend. So far, higher chocolate prices. By the way, it's not eating candy bars, dummy. It's you're going to restaurants and eating a dessert that has a finer thing, and people are going out all right. And so they're selling more of it in people going places, doing things, amusement parks, restaurants, yada, yada. Hence all the extra jobs. But again, I would like to say for the record, this in general is a good thing. The funny thing is that according to them, the price and value of chocolate as a stock of some sort is going up faster than gold this year and with less volatility. The irony. I can't wait till somebody does chocolate ads. Your move, Tom Hartman. All right. Then this is the other part. Meanwhile, used car prices fall by the most since the start of the pandemic, which since they've been rising, whatever. They rose, because people were basically when people got their pandemic checks and they couldn't go anywhere. A lot of people used their opportunity to buy a new used car. A new car, but only new to me, right? That idea. Used car prices fell 4.2% in June from May, the largest drop since the pandemic began, and were down 10% from the previous year as a key measure of inflation eases. Inflation is the easing. The price drop in June was the biggest ever for the month and among the largest in history of the used car price index compiled by Manheim, a vehicle auction service. It has the sharpest decline since April 2020, when Manheim's used vehicle index plunged to 11.4%. That's because nobody was going anywhere. Then everybody realized they could buy a car and have it delivered to them, and Carvana's stock went up because you didn't have to go anywhere. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, buyers at auction look to have taken an early summer break, says Chris Fry. There's also a lot of new cars that are getting discounted, so that's partly why too. But I just find that quite interesting. The price of chocolate's going up, but the price of used cars down. So yes, and I agree. Best chat ever. Lovely chat. Wonderful chat. All right, how many are we doing? Okay, we got a good crowd in here today. And you know what? The great thing about it is
even outside it's packed.
Yeah, outside. You think there's a big crowd in the chat room.
Even outside, it's packed.
Yeah, so, I got so many people not even in here that are in here. That's why they subscribe or become a member, as somebody just did. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Yes, you can become a member. Subscribe on Twitch, twitch.tv/HalSparks. Help us get our numbers up. And also, you can become a member on YouTube. I believe there's even like paid kind of things on Facebook if you prefer to do that, if you're on there. And also stars on Facebook if you want to help out. If you don't, then Patreon. Well, you'd still be helping out, but not by you know what I mean. And then Venmo. Hey, it's a great way. Venmo is where we're primarily, if you want to contribute to the computer, that's where we're trying to get the new Macs are fantastic, and they will help immensely in the production of the show, but they're expensive. So I'm saving up for one of those, and Venmo is the site. So there you go. If you use that. Obviously, I'm taking money from everywhere that I'm borrowing from Peter to pay Paul to eventually get that. But yeah, Cash App is definitely there. There's Cash App. That helps as well. Absolutely. That's where you buy me a cup of coffee, I think, or all of the above. It doesn't matter. So yes, I'm buying it from Tim Apple.
Even outside, it's packed.
That sounds painful. All right, so where are we? Wow, the show breezed by today, and I think it was largely because all I had to do was say, man, I'm tired of being right. This whole show today was just me pointing out that I have not been wasting your time. That is the biggest elsewhere. The price of chocolate is so high now I can't even use it to flavor my adrenochrome milkshakes anymore. I know, and you need to, because adrenochrome has got a very sharp flavor to it. I don't enjoy it myself. I mean, obviously, I bought one of those Fox catheters, and I've been using that, and I find that's way easier. And I'm a man on the go. I've been adrenochroming all during this show right now. I've got a reverse pump installed in my right leg, and just like that and whatever. And the nice ones about the Fox catheters is that they come pre-lubed, because it's not that I don't mind lubing my own catheter, neither do you, of course. Why is that a problem? But I just don't like people seeing me do it in public. Thank you, SS420. Love you too. So like, subscribe, support the show. Yeah. Get us to 1,000 Patreons, and we can we'll add another. We'll add an editor is what we're going to add, quite frankly. We're going to move stuff off of CSL's plate and broaden our availability. So my video froze. Probably something I said about Larry Nassar or something. God knows. What happened in Iceland? I don't know. Something green. All right. I'm out of time. I got 4 minutes left. I'm almost out of time. And we didn't even look at Twitter today. I feel like we've grown as people. Your Mac is 2015, purrs like a kitten. Well, it doesn't do the kind of video that I do here that makes where I can smell the kind of like grinding gears. Yeah. I will have to say that the PC that I've been using, that our dear friend Rob Glenn advised me on the components of, has performed like a champ. He was absolutely right to help me do that. But insofar as the production around the show, besides the live stream, making graphics and all that kind of stuff, I do that all Mac based, and the one I have is got emphysema, quite frankly. Chud is doing good. She's more we even saw her using the scratching post the other day. Yeah. I haven't caught her doing, I know she kind of does it, but I haven't caught her doing that in a while. So, yes. Well, we don't go to, the funny thing about Threads, and we'll get to that eventually, is Threads isn't so much there's no trends on there per se. Just like Instagram, there's no like trending stuff. You have to go look at what's on there, I guess. So yeah, like eventually something's going to break out. They're going to be like modifying it. There's going to be updates and the like. I enjoy it, and it's mostly an app on your phone and stuff. So you don't access it via browser right now. So showing it on here, I'd like have to hook up my phone or something to it. It was very weird. I miss your Twitter. I'm sorry. I'm going to like commingle for a while, mainly to drive activity. But I feel like the big shift is coming. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so follow me on Threads. And I feel like that's where a lot of people are going there. It's pretty good. Chips Chocolate Factory, KCMO, Crown Center Fudge. Oh, yes. In Kansas City, Missouri, Mr. Bojangles. Chips Chocolate Factory. Fudge. All right, I will try it. Yeah. Mom's Russo is Twitter free. Mom's, why'd you call me an idiot earlier? Yeah, before we end the show, can I figure out why that happened? What was I being an idiot about, or were you talking to me? I hope you were talking to me. I hope you weren't calling someone else an idiot and just accidentally. Kill my Twitter Sunday. I'm all into Threads and Instagram. Iceland had 2 earthquakes, one 4.8, another 5.1. That's not that strange. I forget when the last one was, but it's been a decade or so. As one's that size anyways. Yeah, there you go. Threads.net/@HalSparks. There we go. Put catnip on scratching posts and they go nuts. Yeah, but she's old, so she doesn't. It wasn't you. Okay, good. I'm glad. Anyways, so you see the Prince Estate drop 2 new unreleased track. They're getting a vault collection late summer. Oh, that's amazing. Adam, too. I was just listening to Pop Life because I was trying to pick songs for the jam. A week from tomorrow, the Ultimate Jam Night is doing Hollywood Rocks. And our dear friends like Greg Grunberg and the band from TV guys are coming. They're going to perform. We got a couple of like Star Trek alum and folks like that are showing up. We're trying to get some more people on board. I'm hoping, I don't want to say, but I think I've got a lady who will do I hope so. Hope she's going to join us. But I was looking at songs that are appropriate. We're going to do Welcome to the Jungle because it's one of the most classic stories about Hollywood. I think we're opening with that. Whatever. I insisted on doing Limelight by Rush because I think that's appropriate considering who will be there and who will be in the crowd. Nobody did, Kathy. It was a misunderstanding. Somebody. And I was going through Prince songs because I was like, maybe Titus will join us. And and he's a huge Prince fan. And Pop Life is one of those songs that's kind of, fits that zone, 319's not bad either, but it's not so much about Hollywood as maybe the Playboy Mansion, perhaps? I don't know. Take out your clothes, 319. Bet you got a body, by God. Come on, let me see it. I love that song almost as much as I love P Control. But yes, I love 319. But I'm trying to think of, Hollywood-esque songs that lots of people know. Because I would do Enough's Hollywood-ya in a heartbeat. Hollywood, you be my merry-go-round, right? Darling Nikki, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out those. Feel free to threads me or tweet me any songs that you think Copacabana. That's New York, I think, right? Wasn't the Copa in New York? It was really a story about like Studio 54. Yeah. So Bay City Rollers. Well, Hollywood Nights is a good way to do it. We might do Hollywood Nights as the second song or something like that. And then we got to figure out what my closer is. And then they've got a bunch of songs to do. Yeah, I try to broaden what's there. Erotic City. Erotic City that's not necessarily Hollywood. That's just any city I'm in. Look out. Yeah, Hollywood Nights is, I think, a good one. Yeah, Anonymous. Yeah. Erotic City. Not DMSR. I love LA. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's going to be my when I finally run for mayor. That's going to be my campaign theme song. That's my goal. When thread channels the moms. Oh, there you go. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm out of time. I will see you guys this afternoon for the regular show, and lots of stuff to cover. Not the least of which will be some people very upset to be as wrong as they are. That's honest to God, I feel like one of the joys of my job right now, and I'm even looking at some of the clips that we have available to us that CSL has been pumping into the feed that I'm not going to go over. I'm not going to look at. I don't know. But there are a bunch of people who are Queen, any song. I will say Show Must Go On is one of the possibilities that I floated as well. Although it's slower but it's very dramatic. Be a good closer as well. LA Woman. I think somebody else is going to do LA Woman. I think we're going to give that to somebody who's a baritone. Yeah. Yeah, Hollywood Nights by Bob Seger. I'm seeing a lot of votes for that. I like it. But I'll see you guys later on. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. See you later, you Philly or Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah. Go Bucks. Anyways, love you guys. And look, I said it at the beginning of the show, but it bears repeating. The
Even outside, it's packed.
I like fighting number two. I broke their ass.
Here I am like an idiot.
I was a private business people. Action replays in magnified portion. It is sock draw.
Christopher Columbus. Christopher.
Free health care for illegal immigrants. They said, oh.
When they gaze upon Yosemite,
I had a beat off.
they don't like the gas.
We had a wet vaccine. We had a wet vaccine. It is sock draw.